Thank you for having me very much. So again, Darcy reached out to me to have a conversation about kind of what we do at Atreon. We're doing some pretty cool things with apprenticeship. Talk to you guys a little bit about the STEM programs, some opportunities for folks that are graduating with STEM degrees, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of kind of behind the curtains view of what happens on the other side of the interview table, things like that. So my role nowadays as the Learning and Organizational Development Manager, they couldn't find a longer title, that was as long as it gets. I actually work with our HR department very closely. I do a lot of the recruiting and a lot of the interviewing for our entry-level and apprentice candidates. So I hope to provide you guys some insight on some of what happens on the other side of that table, and hopefully answer any questions you all might have. Before I get into too much, were there any questions up front? Excellent. All right. So I have a question for you, though. Why are you here? Why did you decide to come down this afternoon and listen to me blah, blah, blah at the front of the room for an hour? Who here is already in a STEM course or program? Most? Some? A couple? Sure. Yeah. Okay. So how many folks here are looking to get into a STEM program? Kind of interested in the topic? Okay, excellent. Excellent. And then how many probably would like some insight into the hiring practices, things that go on at the companies, things like that? Excellent. Okay, good. So I might hit on a few of those for you guys. So I'll start off with who I am, who Atreon is. I'm going to talk about our apprentice program. Actually, now we have a couple of different training programs that I will discuss. Going to talk a little bit about the skills gap that Darcy mentioned, which is really the why STEM in my mind here. We'll talk about some tips and tricks, and we'll kind of cover a lot of the opportunities out there for folks. So Atreon Corporation is an IT services company, okay? And we're looking to be a trusted partner for our customers, from everything from help desk support to server work, to administration work, to assistance with their teams, all the way up to building another data center or disaster recovery building, and kind of everything in between. We have a number of solutions areas for our customers, everything from coding and business process improvement on the .NET and SharePoint platform, so if anyone's familiar with SharePoint. We have tech foundations, which is the plumbing. It's the network, the LAN, the WAN, the plumbing, the wireless, security, things like that. Collaborations is our voice and video solutions area. And then finally, data center, which is anything server related, Microsoft to Red Hat, and anything that has to do with the data center. So the power, cooling, high-speed switching, all those fun things that we work with. And that's kind of what we do at Atreon. We've been around for a little bit more than 25 years now, and we're headquartered down in Warwick, Rhode Island. So quick little trip on 146 if you're interested. Now, who am I? My name is Jamie Boughman, as Darcy mentioned. I'm not really a former engineer. I'm still an engineer. I still do project work. I still work on support tickets to keep myself sharp. But right now I run the training arm of Atreon. We've created a couple of pretty cool training programs at Atreon that we're very proud of. And it's my job to run those. The cool thing about those programs is those trainings have rolled out so that those trainings are used not just for entry-level and new folks to the organization, but we use them as upskilling and retraining for folks already in the organization, and we've had the opportunity to use them with some of our customers. So some cool things that we're doing there from a training perspective. I started off as a little bit of a geek in high school. Was interested in computers mostly. Went through high school, went to UMass Lowell, actually entered college for an electrical engineering and a computer science degree. I found out that electrical engineering was not for me when I found out that that would be sitting around a boardroom table like this talking about microwaves for 80 hours a week. I decided that was probably not the job for me anymore. So I moved over into a Bachelor of Science degree in business administration, but with a concentration of in MIS. the management of information systems. So I found the kind of sweet spot between the fun things that people were doing from a business perspective and the really cool technological things that I was interested in that were kind of my passion from when I was younger. From there I worked for, do you guys still have RCN in this area? We had a lot of business customers in the Worcester area. RCN is an ISP, an internet services provider, so I kind of cut my teeth there. Went to Fidelity Investments for a few years and then got a call from one of my coworkers at RCN to say, hey, we're doing some pretty cool things down here in Rhode Island. We've got a small company called Atreon. We're wondering if you'd like to come hang out. And then 9 years later, here I am running the training arm of the organization, which is pretty cool. So what about our apprentice program? What is the apprentice program that's mentioned in the flyer? So we created a year-long apprentice program that takes about 3 months of very heavy classroom-intensive boot camp-like training, and then 9 months of on-the-job training. All right, and we kind of mix those to come up with an upskilling program very similar to what the trades use. You know, if you've heard of an electrical apprentice or something like that, very similar to that, only in the IT field. So I take folks new to IT or new to business, upskill them quickly in the classroom, and then put them with a mentor engineer to get them out into the field. And what that does is that gives them an opportunity to learn by doing, which a lot of folks learn a lot better with the kind of hands-on, not just sitting in the classroom all the time. So we find that that mix works very, very well for our engineers as they grow. And it kind of started organically. We realized that we were suffering from an inability to hire talent to get work done for our customers. So our CEO, Tim Hebert, decided in about 2008 to say, look, we're gonna put some effort into this. And so we hired a couple of engineers, and we said, look, Bobby, I want you to learn everything Bill knows. Bill, you have to teach Bobby everything you know. We called it 4 feet in the street. We stapled 2 engineers together, and we kicked them out into the field. And then from there, it's kind of grown. We started with a couple of classes of 3 to 4 individuals. The first class I took over as a formal program was 10 folks, and our most recent apprentice program that's actually running right now down in Warwick is 17 apprentices big. So we're very happy with the growth that we've seen in that side of the organization. The problem with a year-long program, though, is it's not very fast. So the business pulled me aside and said, look, Jamie, this apprentice program thing is great. However, we really need engineers in, I don't know, how's 6 weeks sound? 6 weeks sound good? So what we did was we took the curriculum we're doing in a year for the apprentice program, streamlined it and shrunk it down to 6 weeks, and that's what we call our Associate Engineer Accelerated Program. So those programs are for a slightly higher level person coming in, so someone that's been 1.5 to 3 years in industry, maybe a network administrator or someone works in the IT department somewhere who's kind of a little bit stuck in their job or a little bit bored with what they're working on. They've been in the same network for 2 years now, they're kind of treading water, their career's not going where they want it to. That's kind of the perfect person to come in the door, hit the ground running. We throw a ton of technology, a ton of professional skills, a ton of Atreonization at folks, and get them up and running in 6 weeks to get them out into the field as engineers using those programs. So we have a couple of programs we use to kind of combat that skills gap we're seeing in the IT world. Any questions on that? On Atreon, who I am, what I do? Programs of trainingness? Excellent. All right, so why the need? Why did we end up having to create an apprentice program? And this speaks specifically to the skills gap that Darcy mentioned. The skills gap right now for folks in the STEM programs is the good news for you guys. For the businesses that, like what I'm in, it's the bad news. We have this very steep gap between what we need coming in the door and what folks are applying to the jobs. There is actually even though unemployment is at the level it's at, the IT industry and a lot of the science and technology fields are actually suffering from the exact opposite problem. I've got 40 jobs open and 1 person applying to the 40. So from an opportunity perspective for folks coming out of schooling, those technology fields have just a wealth of opportunity for folks, which is one recommendation I would make. If you were interested in getting into any of those STEM courses or the programs, that's one of the benefits you could see right away. Not only is IT and bioscience, a lot of the higher end nursing fields, not only are those growing way too fast for us to keep up to them, keep up with them. But also we're seeing not enough people entering the workforce in those trades. So a lot of opportunity out there. And again, with that opportunity, these are high-paying jobs, right? These aren't minimum wage stuck at being a greeter at Walmart or working at McDonald's or any of those things. These are careers that you can support a family on. So a lot of folks in the recruiting side for IT especially are very excited about that opportunity for folks as well. So there's a significant shortage, and what we found was because of that shortage, it was taking forever to find people to hire. It was taking months of recruiting and months of recruiting instead of the weeks that we would normally see. From there, our growth, we at Atrion specifically, but a lot of the players in our industry have been growing even during the recession. So right in the very teeth of the recession, we were still hiring engineers, by the tens. Not we hired one or two, we were hiring by the tens, and our competitors were doing the exact same thing. So even when the jobs were seemingly not there, we were having to hire and hire and hire. And then beyond that, we've got customers out there that are relying on us to be there when they need help, right? So we had this kind of really, really sharp problem, this really big challenge that we had to kind of take a bite out of. And the way we decided to do it is through some internal training programs. But where we're seeing it work when we're from a university relations perspective, working with colleges such as you guys, is how do we bridge that skills gap with the college? How do we get folks coming out of the degree programs a little bit closer to where we need from a business perspective? How can they fill the gaps on the educational end, and then how can we fill the gaps on the business end, right? Because it wouldn't be fair from a business perspective for me just to say, all right, the colleges have to create perfect employees. We're not hiring anyone until you're perfect, right? That's not going to get it done. But at the same time, the colleges have to do a lot of lifting, right? There's a lot of workforce development that needs to happen before I can even get my hands on somebody to be an engineer, right? So it's kind of an interesting partnership that we have with our university partners. But that's kind of where we're seeing that. Again, from a skills gap perspective, we're doing our best to close that. Again, it's not just IT. IT is the one that I'm the most intimately familiar with. Bioscience is another big one. Again, I mentioned nursing, advanced manufacturing. So it's not just if you're not interested in IT particularly. There are a lot of other ways to go chasing after some of these very technological fields. Now, a lot of the examples that I'll use this afternoon will be IT focused, because that has been where I have been working the last couple of decades. But understand that the same conversations I'm having with my IT folks are the exact same conversations they're having when they're building an apprenticeship for advanced manufacturing. So new buildings nowadays, we're not building them with just brick and mortar anymore, right? We're building them with a steel structure to build them up quick, fast, get them up off the ground so we can build a building around it, right? Well, they have apprenticeship programs in those types of advanced manufacturing and building fields as well. So when I say IT or if I say technology, please understand I am covering all of those STEM types of programs. Make sense? A little bit, kind of? Anyone asleep yet? Excellent. So how do we bridge the gap? So I talked about some of the conversations that are happening with the colleges and some of the things that businesses are trying to do to bridge those gaps. But what can you all do? What is it that a student coming out of a college or a potential employee, what can you do to prepare yourself to get into the workforce, to make that impact in an interview or in a conversation? So you guys are a 2-year institution, is that right? All right, so where do you guys go after 2 years? What's the next step for you guys?
You could go into the workforce and you can find, again, like entry level job routes. Some people go on to 4-year institutions to finish up their 2 years.
Excellent, excellent. So you can either go to another 4-year institution, right, to go for a higher level degree, or you could enter the workforce right away. And what we're finding is a lot of the folks that come into programs like mine have come to a college like this, or we have CCRI down in Rhode Island, NEIT. I don't know if you guys have heard of NEIT, New England Institute of Technology. Very similar in conversation to the conversation we're having today, where they've got folks that finish a 2-year degree or a 2-year certificate program and just don't know what to do with it, right? So what I would say is from an opportunities perspective, don't think that your options are limited in any way, shape, or form. Once you get out of your program with that certificate, with that degree, the opportunities really are out there. I mean, they're out there for IT jobs. They're out there for a lot of the technological jobs. So what can you do, or what can each of us do, to get a little bit closer to that? And that's kind of what I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation on. So this is an interesting conversation we have with not only our employees, but our potential future employees, folks that we do mock interviews with, folks that we work with before they get fully into the workforce. So when I talk about a brand, what do you guys think about from a brand perspective? Generally we think about companies, right? Any big companies that immediately come to mind when I say the word brand? Coca-Cola, that's a huge one, right? What else? Microsoft. Anyone else?
Intel.
Say again?
Intel.
Intel, Google, Facebook, Walmart. Now, is Google's reputation and brand the same as Walmart's reputation and brand? No, of course not, right? It's a silly question to all of us. So the thing that I want you to keep in mind is think about your own brand as you're getting out there into the workforce. Think of your own brand here in school, while you're working in your classes, while you're working on your projects. Because what we find is when people forget that, you're not really acting in your own best interest, whether it be social media, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be during your interview process. So how many folks have a LinkedIn account in here? So a number of you, that's good. Our chief recruiter, Pat Halpin, will tell you in an interview that if you do not have a LinkedIn profile, it is as bad as not having a resume. All right, that's a pretty scary thought for some folks that don't have a LinkedIn profile. So if you don't, I would highly encourage looking into starting one. So you're in school, right? So there's nothing to put in your LinkedIn profile. There's nothing you can put in your resume, right? What can you start putting in your LinkedIn profile, your resume today? Skills. Excellent. Go ahead. Skills. We like skills. We got that. Excellent. What else can you put down? Education. What you're learning, right? What are the classes teaching you? What else? Oh, so you're telling me that you could go out and volunteer for a local church or a school or help out your friends and family, and that might be experience? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's something I love to see on a resume. Because what does that mean to me as an employer? If you have that in your resume, go ahead.
It means you're doing things outside of just, looking for that specific job. You're actually contributing to something else and also gaining experience.
Exactly right. And the thing that we like to ask in an interview is, what are you doing to keep your skills sharp? So it's fine if you have a professor at the front of the room, blah, 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 and the knowledge just washing over you. But what are you doing outside the classroom? What are you doing to use that knowledge? What are you using to gain and build that knowledge to stay fresh in whatever technology, whatever skills you're working on, right? So those are some of the things we can do. What else can you do to build up your resume or to build up your LinkedIn profile? How about your project work with teams? One of my favorite pictures is if you guys have seen the pie chart, it's like what I learned in college about working in groups, and it's this little sliver of red that says, working well with other people, and then the rest of it is all this big marking of trust no one. But that's really helpful when you get out into the real world, right? Because not only do I have to work with my own team, who else do I have to work with? A bunch of other teams of people around me that are relying on me to be able to interact in many different ways once I get into the workforce. So your project work in school is absolutely legitimate experience to put on a resume. All right. Any questions on this? Any questions on that brand idea? And we have a bunch of other little tips and tricks that I would just be very careful about what you post on any of the social media accounts, what picture you choose for your LinkedIn profile. So for my LinkedIn profile, it's just a dopey picture of me smiling with a suit on. It's not me sitting back in a beach chair stretched out with a drink in my hand. Right? Think very carefully about what you're posting on these types of social media accounts.
But self-innovation.
Say again?
Self-innovation.
Oh, tell me more.
You become who you are, you have your own ideas.
I love that.
You create your own creation.
Absolutely, that's a great call. What else?
I was going to say, thinking back off of that, I think maybe sometimes people can post articles that they've seen that they're interested in, and it shows the things that you're interested to your employers. It shows that you're doing research and
Absolutely. And what I have is I have some of my folks that came in as students, and during their student experience, they were blogging about it. So they'd take what they learned in the classroom and they'd kind of try to condense it down into a blog. Now, what happens for that person, that student that blogs about the experience? Sure, it might be something that I might find if I look them up on maybe Google, if they give me their resume. But what else does it do for them? Advertisement, absolutely. Get your name out there. What else? So you're increasing your brand, right? But even more importantly, for yourself, what are you doing? If you have to distill that classroom work into a cogent conversation in a blog, what have you just done?
It's a growth.
It's growth, and you've reinforced the knowledge. The best way to learn something is to be able to teach it to someone else, right? So if you take the couple of minutes to take what you're learning and build it into whether it's a blog or an article or a conversation, you're enhancing not only your brand and your image, but also potentially your own knowledge as well. Makes those tests a little bit easier to pass. Let's see. From there, a lot of folks ask us, what is it that you're looking for in the perfect employee? What are you looking for from an apprentice standpoint, from somebody coming in the door to sit down for the interview? So we pulled together a couple of attributes that we find. An important one for any business is adaptability, right? The ability to be flexible. As much fun as any job is, things change. And you're going to find that employers don't like the person that just sits there being grumpy and complaining about the change, but the person who's willing to embrace that change. Especially in these higher technical fields, you're going to find that things change very, very rapidly. Not only from a new technology standpoint, but from a growth perspective. These things have changed, can cause frustration for some. Being able to be flexible and adapt to it generally shows up very, very well with your employer. An aptitude for technology. Now, what happens if I just want to go work in an accounting firm? Do I care about technology? Absolutely. Why?
Everything is going
Go ahead.
because everything is technical anyway.
Absolutely. Actually, some of the first spreadsheets we were dealing with were for the accounting folks to not have to print out this ridiculous amount of paper and walk it down the hallway. We had WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. Create a network around that so that now I could send a quick file to somebody rather than having to walk things across buildings. So it doesn't matter that the field or the actual company you're working for isn't very technical. The fact of the matter is technology is everywhere, and it not only supports, but generally it's going to enhance the business. There's a productivity increase, there's an efficiency increase that you can get from technology. So having an aptitude for that, getting your teeth sharp on some of the latest trends are going to make you more valuable to the organization. I think of my time at Fidelity Investments. So Fidelity Investments, what do they do for a living? Mutual funds, right? A lot of investments, stocks, bonds, all those fun things. Not really what you'd think about when you think of a technologically adept company. But all of the interior programs that are necessary to keep that place up and running. How when someone calls in on their 401k and they type in their social security number, and then that social security number gets entered in the phone system and then routes their call to a specific call center that has a few less call center employees busy than the call center down the street, right? So all that technology is keeping the business running and making it more efficient and more productive, right? So that they can make more money. Career focused. So my coworker, Rachel Croach, she runs our internship program. All right, so we work very closely together because very often our interns, shockingly, like where we work and want to come work for us, maybe as an apprentice or an associate engineer in the future. So one of the things she likes to talk about is when you are thinking about how to pull together your information, not only be career focused, but be the CEO of your own career, right? Be the leader of your career in whatever path that takes. Now, that can mean a bunch of different things. It can mean sometimes you're in a position that it's not right for you, and it might be time to leave, even though you're pretty comfy in that position. But also what it can sometimes mean is, I could go leave this company to go somewhere else for an extra $5,000 a year, but is it really worth leaving, jumping ship, having to restart everything just for that $5,000? If you break out $5,000 down to an hourly wage over a year, it's not that great. All right, so having a long-term career mindset can be very, very helpful to help you avoid some of the missteps that folks make, especially when they're new to career or as they just start to grow in a career. All right, so keep those things in mind. A customer service mindset. what would a customer service mindset have anything to do for an IT company? I work with computers and networks and servers all day. What do I need a customer service mindset for?
You have to be able to relay that information and that technology to other people, and therefore you have to be able to speak to them in a way that they can easily understand because not everyone has the IT education.
Absolutely. My customer does not want that old IT troll that we used to lock in the back room with no windows and kept them away from the customer, right? They need someone who can present information cogently, make sense, have a legitimate conversation with them, bring the conversation to their level so that they're not just talking over their heads, right? So having a customer service mindset is very helpful when you're dealing with your customers. But I'll remind you that not all your customers are external. It will also help to have that customer service mindset internally as well. Your internal customers, your career grows much faster if you're the person other people around you look to because they know you can help. Even if you don't necessarily know the answer every time, yeah, maybe you know where to get it, or maybe you know where to point them to help them out. It's much easier just to say, no, I'm sorry, too busy, I can't help you. But if you're the one that always is willing to be there, be present, and be customer-centric for your internal customers, you'll find that a lot of people start relying on you. And the people that get relied on by a lot of different people tend to be the ones that grow through an organization very, very quickly.
I think customer service is the face of the company.
Well said, perfectly said. I love that, absolutely. A desire to learn. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add, that's a point I've been making to people for years. Because I've been that guy that people come to, even though I wasn't the official IT.
Yep.
And you're exactly right. And it's never seems to get talked about.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
if you're that jackhole, the typical antisocial IT stereotype, you're going nowhere.
Absolutely. Well said. Again, because the IT department can't be that department of no anymore, right? The IT folks have to be the ones that are increasing productivity. They're helping efficiency. They're making the business grow and run. A desire to learn, I don't think I have to really comment too far on that, right? You're all in college. You're all trying to improve yourselves. Being a lifelong learner has helped so many of the engineers I've trained that I can't stress the importance enough. A passion for technology, again, maybe there are certain aspects of technology that you don't love, but finding a passion in these technological pursuits, maybe finding a passion in one of these courses or programs can actually help you move very, very quickly, especially in a business. Your professional skills. What do you think I'm referring to when I say professional skills? They used to be called soft skills a lot. What are the professional skills?
Your comportment, your ability to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Especially public speaking.
So maybe public speaking if you're in front of a group a lot. As engineers, we have to, they took my whiteboard, so I don't have it as an example anymore. But we have to whiteboard in front of our customers, right? I have to be able to explain what we're doing for our customers. So the ability to give a little baby presentation on the fly is very helpful. But it's more than that. It's, what do you wear to an interview?
You have to have self-esteem.
Self-esteem, a little bit of confidence, those types of skills, right? How to be a good employee, right? A lot of people, as they're in a business, are thinking, what can the employer do for me? Does it hurt to think what you could be doing for the employer? Not at all. Because the more value you can add to your employer, what happens to your career? We call it career equity, right? So my apprentices, they have to work very, very hard. Our good apprentices that come in already solid estimate about 5 hours a night of study, on top of a full 8-hour workday, doing all the technical challenges, the labbing. That's a lot of heavy lifting for someone who's in a job, right? But what's happening to them on the side? They're passing certifications. Their resume's growing, so it doesn't even fit on a page anymore, just in 3 months of work. So remember that, yes, you do want to know what the employer can do for you. Can you help me pay my bills? Can I put food on the table? Am I getting the proper benefits? So make sure you're taken care of. But remember, the more value you can add for an organization, the faster you're going to grow through your career, right? And then finally, we mentioned it before, the team player aspect. I can't think of a single job I've worked in where I've been able to interact with someone who wasn't a team player. If you're not a team player, you generally get shunned, you're stuck in a corner somewhere, and your career kind of stagnates. So just be very, very careful of that. So how do we prepare for this? How can we get ourselves in the right mindset? And I think this is a lot of the conversation I wanted to have today after I got to talk to Darcy. Find your passion, right? Find what it is about what you could do someday for a living that you absolutely love, all right? As I do some of the engineering work, You know, there's going to be a time that I have to lab something up for a customer. Or heck, I have to build a tech challenge for my apprentices. I have to build the tech challenge ahead of time. That doesn't get to happen 8 to 5. That happens off hours. That happens Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Friday at 3 a.m. It happens all sorts of fun times. If you don't love what you're doing, and you're doing it at 3 a.m. on a Friday morning, that can be soul-sucking. That can just crush you. So make sure that whatever you want to do, whatever you want to go into, find your passion, right? And if you're in a field that you're not really super excited about, I would highly recommend finding someplace that you can be excited about work, all right? Again, there's a little bit of a quote around the idea that if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. You know, it's kind of a dopey expression, but I find that the best engineers, the best folks that I get to work with in HR, those are the ones that absolutely adore what they're doing and can put their all into it. So again, start there. Find out what you're passionate about. Be proactive, okay? Get outside of wherever you're in, whether it be volunteer, we talked about, whether it be going to get more experience, whether it be finding other projects you can work on, helping folks around you, to get yourself more to be able to use in your skill set, your experience, your education, all those things. So be proactive there. I think be your own salesperson kind of talks to itself, right? I mean, the ability to sell yourself becomes very, very important in an interview. It goes right to the confidence and self-esteem you were talking about. If you're sitting down in an interview with someone, that's not the time to be shy. That's the time to be very proud of what you've done and show an employer exactly what you could do for them, right? From there, explore your options. One of the things that I think the STEM courses, the STEM programs, and a lot of these programs like them offer you is a lot of opportunities. You're going to find that when you start getting these things right, when you find your passion, when you start building that kind of critical mass of skills and education and experience, you're going to start finding that your options are going to open and open and open, all right? And you're not going to be stuck in a place where you're treading water or stuck in a place where you're not able to grow. From there, get involved. I mean, get involved in extracurricular activities where you can, additional courses. Again, we talked about those things. Utilize your resources. I work in physical networking, like connecting computers to each other, but remember the people networking side of things, okay? Again, that's a big plus to a LinkedIn profile, is it's almost an automatic networking application as well, where everybody that I can reach out to on LinkedIn is a potential person that I can interact with later in my career, whether it be as a customer, as a future employer, or it might be someone that I can help give a hand up when they need one after they decide to change careers, something like that. All right, so keep those things in mind. And then from there, as much as we have a great deal of opportunity in IT and the technological fields, set yourself apart. It's the same thing that you've probably heard since middle school, right? You know, you want to be well-rounded, you want to do all these things, you want to volunteer, blah, blah, blah. But it's important because when you're going up against some pretty stiff competition, it's very helpful to be able to set yourself apart. All right? Now, what do you think you guys have at your disposal to kind of start pulling some of these things together? So what are some of the resources you guys have at your disposal right now?
I mean, we have some really great mentors here, like some
Excellent.
professors that have a lot of experience outside of here that they can give you. Also, we have, various offices like the career center, the placement centers, the transfer fairs that I think we just had this morning.
Excellent.
All those things.
And I would recommend don't just use your mentor here in school. Find a mentor. It's one of the best pieces of career advice I've heard through the years. Find a mentor. Find a mentor at school. Find a mentor in your personal life. Find a mentor in your professional life. And always have someone that you can look to. It's the idea that in athletics, do you want to play people that are worse than you at a sport? But isn't that more fun? I can win all the time. What happens when you play people better than you? You challenge yourself, you get better, right? So finding a mentor, finding someone that can help you kind of navigate some of the interesting things that we see as we're growing in our career is a great opportunity out there. What else do you guys have? So you have your career services, you have your centers, what else? Your own personal network, right? Your family, your friends, your family's friends, right? Start building your network, whether it be through LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Have at your disposal a group of people that can help you find, maybe the next job offer or the next interview appointment. All right. Any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. All right. So a lot of folks ask the question around, how do I prepare for an interview, or how do I prepare to get ready to come into a training program like yours? So one of the first things we talk to people about, and this goes right to those professional skills I mentioned earlier, is we talk a lot about dressing professionally. Should you wear a suit to an interview? How often should you wear a suit to an interview? All of the time, all right? With the Googles and the Facebooks, there's been this kind of interesting backlash out there where people are recommending, well, don't go into an interview in a suit. You'll appear stuffy and conservative and all those things. As I show up in a suit and it's very blue and conservative looking. But what happens when you don't show up in a suit and your interviewer was expecting a suit? What have you just done?
You work against yourself.
You have absolutely worked against yourself. You've hurt your reputation before you even got to open your mouth. Okay? So I always recommend anyone interviewing anywhere, wear a suit. Because if I show up in a suit and I realize very rapidly, oh no, this was not the time to wear a suit, what can I do? Can I take my jacket off? Can I roll up my sleeves? Can I take my tie off quickly, put it in my pocket? Absolutely. Think I've ever done that at a customer site? I think I'm going into the boardroom and I show up in my suit and then I realize, oh, we're going to be playing in the data center today. All right, let's get rid of this jacket. I'm going to roll up my sleeves, get rid of this tie because it's going to get in the way, right? So it's easier to dress down if you've dressed a little too high than it is to show up in shorts and a t-shirt and try to look professional. So just be very careful about that. Before you even start interviewing, sit down and start listing your accomplishments. Okay? This is going to help everything from building your resume to building your LinkedIn profile to answering every single one of the dopey questions I'm going to ask you in my interview, right? We're asking those questions for a reason. And generally, we're asking behavioral type of interview questions. Can you tell me about a time where you did X, Y, and Z, right? Because I want to see that you have a past history that is going to continue while you work for me, right? So having that list of accomplishments means those questions are going to be a lot easier to answer for you, right? Because not that I want someone to just immediately yell out the answer the second I finish talking, but at the same time, someone who really fumbles and doesn't really know when they worked on a project with some other people this one time at college, they think, that doesn't really come across well either. So having a list of your accomplishments ready to go, ready to speak about, will help you exponentially. Do your research. What research should you be doing before you go into any interview for any company on the planet? The companies, the website. What else can you do? How you doing?
If I know the name of the interviewer, I often look them up.
Absolutely. Is there anything wrong with going to LinkedIn and looking me up if you're going to interview with me? I would recommend you do it. I had an interviewee quote me from a video when I was doing a talk in front of some of our customers. That was up on our YouTube site. They found me doing a YouTube video. Just so you know, quoting me in an interview with me, really good idea. Really, I won't lie. I love flattery. It's amazing. It'll get you everywhere. So having that little bit of time, taking that little bit of space to research is going to help you out. Because there's nothing worse than getting to a company and finding out because you didn't do that research, it's not a good fit. Yes, when I'm sitting down on my side of the table and we're interviewing together, I want to make sure you guys are a right fit for us, right? But at the same time, make sure you're a good fit or the company's a good fit for you, okay? That's very, very important, and I don't think a lot of people talk about that. It's fine, and I understand especially when you talk about the recession, we talk about where we're at from an unemployment perspective. Remember that you need to be a good fit for the company, and that's what the employer is trying to find. But make sure the employer is a good fit for you. Okay, you don't want to get into a place where it doesn't match up well with either your values, your work ethic, things like that. Make sure you find a good match on both ends of that table. Okay, not a lot of recruiters will tell you that, but it is important. And then finally, practice interviewing. Not finally, but right around the middle. Practice interviewing, right? Mock interviews. Work with friends or family that can ask you some of these questions to get good at answering them. Answer questions in the mirror. There's nothing wrong with that. I won't know you did it. I just know that you're answering it very well when I'm asking the question, right? So practice. From there, get a list of questions. How many questions should you ask at the end of every interview? Go ahead. How many? 4 to 5. I like it. I heard 3. Any others? I would say between 2 and 3 questions. Note, I did not say none. None is the usual answer that folks give at the end of the interview. There's nothing more disheartening after a really good interview with a candidate to at the end say, okay, great. Do you have any questions for us? And they say, nope, you answered everything. And then they leave. What just happened to that interview? We did. We cut the legs out from under it. Why? Why does that cut the legs out from under the interview? What have you just shown me? Potentially that you don't care, that you're not interested in the company, that you're not interested in making sure that this is a good fit in both ends. Okay? What questions can you ask at the end of an interview? Should you ask about pay?
No.
Please don't. Please don't. Should you ask about benefits? Please don't. We'll tell you pay and benefits, and we'll have a lovely conversation about that later. But at the end of your interview, what should you ask?
About the lively of the company.
I love it. All right, what's the culture like here? What else?
I just recently finished an interview with some company in Boughman. One of my questions at the end was, what is a general conversation with a face-to-face customer when they usually come in?
I like that. I like that. What's a day look like in the life of this insert position I'm applying for here, right? What's the culture like? What do you love about working here? What don't you love about working here? Are those okay questions to ask? Absolutely. It shows that you're interested in how the company works, how the company thinks, how the company acts. Those are the types of questions that will actually start a very cool conversation with the right candidate. Okay?
And body support.
Say again?
Body support.
I like that as well, absolutely. So now again, I said between 2 and 3 or 2 and 5 questions. This is not the time to pepper your interviewer with 15 questions causing the interview to go over 2.5 hours, right? So just have a couple of definite questions that you want to ask about the place you're interviewing, okay? And from there, show up early. I say 15 minutes max. So you always show up 15 minutes early, right? We've all learned that. We've heard that forever. I usually show up to a meeting at least a half an hour early, and I shoot for an hour early. Do I go in an hour early? What have I just become if I go into an interview an hour early? An inconvenience, all right? So 15 minutes is the sweet spot, all right? You don't want to arrive too much later because it looks like you're arriving late, and you don't want to arrive earlier because if you're before 15 minutes, you're now a nuisance. Whereas 15 minutes, you get to introduce yourself to the front desk, you get a chance to get a glass of water, those types of things help out a great deal. So again, always make sure that you're showing up early. Any questions on that? All right, so we started off talking a little bit about the company I work for and the technologies we work with. Talked a little bit about the skills gap, and it's really a crisis in the IT industry, and for a couple of other big technology industries. Again, advanced manufacturing, bioscience is another one. The advanced nursing degrees are struggling for people. What are some of the programs you guys have here from a STEM perspective? Science, technology, engineering, and math that you guys have? Bioscience?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, what else?
Engineering.
Engineering?
Nursing.
Nursing?
We have telecommunications.
Oh, there you go. Excellent. And that goes into not only the phone systems, but the service provider systems as well, I'm sure? Excellent, excellent. Do these sound a little bit familiar from what I've been talking about for far too long? Absolutely, right? These are the different career paths that are the ones desperate for help right now. So definitely keep it in mind if you're not already along one of those paths, that it might be an interesting opportunity for you to get down one of those paths to fast track your career. And then after that, we talked a little bit about some of the things that each of us could do to get us a little bit better prepared for interviews, to get us prepared to interact with our companies or employers, future employers that we might be working with. So from here, from an interview perspective, that kind of covers what I wanted to talk about. Talk a little bit about prep. And then from there, don't have too much else. So it's a small group, so thank you very much for your engagement.